Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the City Council of the City of Manvel for April the 17th, 2023. We have no workshop today, so we'll go right into regular session. Inspirational reading by Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you. Leaders should recall something that Woodrow Wilson once said. You are not here merely to make a living. You are here to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision and with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world. You impoverish yourself if you forget this errand. In Mark 10, Jesus, the greatest leader of all, said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Some of the many characteristics that embody good quality leadership are listening, empathy, awareness, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building community, someone who is a model of integrity and fairness and looks beyond their own self-interest. Those are all lofty words, but they cut to the core of what it means to lead and leave an organization in a better place than when you found it, and that's the true measure of any leader's legacy. Personally, I'm excited for the future of Manvel and want to urge and encourage those who will be sitting in these seats in just a few weeks to press on towards change and not only tout wins that can be seen visually like new developments and well-intentioned ordinances, but also create a victory within our community by leaning into the uncomfortable and finding a way to clean up the perception we've unfortunately built. We owe it to our staff, the citizens, our amazing local businesses who have stuck with us through monumental change, the many churches who open their doors to thousands within our community each week, and for anyone in the future who decides that Manvel, our city on the rise, is a place they want to call home.
Thank you. Will you stand and join me in the pledges? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, we have this evening a proclamation for Child Abuse Awareness Month, April 2023. The proclamation reads, whereas in the federal fiscal year 2022, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services confirmed 67,558 victims of child abuse or neglect, including 492 in Brazoria County with one fatality. And in Manvel, the Brazoria County Alliance for Children served 41 clients, with 8 being under 5 years of age, 19 being students, and 14 adults. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone in our community. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and will shape the future of Texas. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that can have lifelong consequences for victims. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connections and partnerships created between child welfare, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that benefit children and their families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for children and families. And whereas the impact of abuse and neglect has long-term personal, economic, and social costs, therefore hurting Texas's future. Now therefore, I, Deborah Davison, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Manvel, Texas, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. All right? Christy? Forward. Absolutely.
I'm Christy Hawkins, the Executive Director of Brazoria County Alliance for Children, and our mission is to provide hope and healing to all children affected by child abuse. Manvel is a city on the rise, but y'all are leaders in the community. There have been a few years I've been able to come and speak about what is happening in our county, and I will say not all cities are ready to face it. And Manvel is, and I wish that there were more communities that followed y'all's path and allowed us to talk about what is happening in our community and to share that this is happening, it's affecting our families and our children, but there are services for hope and healing, and part of the mission of Texas Child Advocacy Centers is to stop it before it starts. So if there is anything that we can do to help partner and educate the community, I would appreciate any chance to be able to do that, and thank you for facing this issue in our community.
Thank you so much. We'll be working together. Okay. All right, public comments? None? City managers update.
Mayor and council members, I have a couple of items for you tonight. The Stella Roberts Recycling Center in Pearland is actually having a drug take-back day, Saturday, April 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's the Stella Roberts Recycling Center up in Pearland on Magnolia. Again, if you want to discard or dispose of unused or expired prescription drugs, they will take those and then they'll have them destroyed through the DEA program. There's an item that's on your agenda. It's the last item. It's item 7. And Gilbert Salas has something that he brought in that he's going to show you. One of the things, your item 7 is actually going to be talking about an agreement between the city and TxDOT about putting up signs that we're very proud of. And if Gilbert would hold it up, he will actually show you what this one's going to be.
Drum roll.
So, right now,
That's awesome.
the staff has done an excellent job getting us to that point. Right now, it looks like there's going to be 5 of these signs put up. They're going to be at Highway 6 and County Road 48, Highway 6 and County Road 99, so both ends of the city limits on Highway 6. 288 at Magnolia, where if you're coming down from the north, 288 and Highway 6, it's on the sort of the northbound side of 288. And then up on 1128 near County Road 101, up near John's Country Inn. So it's another entrance into the city limits. So we're going to have the city limits and the Superior Water signs installed hopefully shortly. So that's one of the things.
Awesome.
And the last item is a week from today, early voting starts. Election day is on May the 6th, and we want to encourage everybody to go out and vote. That's what I have for you today.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Regular agenda. Consideration and possible action to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2023-016, an ordinance amending Chapter 35, Licenses and Special Business Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manvel, Texas, by amending Article 10, Mobile Food Vendors, to change the minimum distance requirement between a mobile food unit, temporary food establishment, from 300 to 100 yards, and add 2 requirements to food truck operations, repealing provisions in conflict therewith, providing a penalty in an amount not to exceed $2,000 per day for each day of violation of any provision hereof, and providing for severability. This item was tabled at the 4/3/2023 City Council meeting. Any discussion? No, you go first.
Alrighty. So since the previous council meeting, staff went back and we added definitions for a restaurant, central preparation facility, and commissary in this article. And then we also, as we said, we defined further how we're going to measure the mobile food unit from a restaurant. And we put that the distance would be from the mobile food unit, their service area, to the front door of the restaurant. We think we'll see like the least sort of conflicts that we could have, but still protecting our brick and mortar restaurants from, too many food trucks, so.
All right.
I do have a couple of comments. Thanks for this. And can I clarify that this is 2 readings, right? So this is first reading?
This is the second reading.
This
This
is
is-
already the second reading. Okay. So so the table did not stop that to make it to 2, because my 2 things is the distance requirement. I couldn't find any notes on why we went from 300 to 100 from way back when, because we've all slept since then. It's been a long process. But you're measuring that 100 feet from the front door to where the next food truck is, and you think that that's enough room to kind of not create too much of a on top of each other type situation?
So for clarification,
Yards.
it's 1,000 yards.
Yards, okay.
So that's a big, obviously greater, than the.
100 yards.
100, I'm sorry, what did I say?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I'm having a week, I don't remember anything.
So,
She hadn't slept
so
since
sorry.
then.
yeah. So it's 100 yards
Yes, ma'am.
from the front door to where the food truck can be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The 300s
One football field.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't necessarily sort of remember at what point we decided we wanted to do that, but I think when we said, hey, we really want to open the door for the food trucks,
Okay.
300 yards is excessive to meet that requirement.
Gotcha.
I think 100 yards, we can get there without, like I said, encroaching on our restaurants. However, I think if we start moving forward, and if we see, if it's not enough or it's too much, we can come back and make those tweaks and recommendations to you, definitely. So we're gonna keep an eye on that if this distance is saying what we want it to do, right?
correct. Yeah, and a few of us have been, or a lot of us have been kind of grateful to be on the campaign trail where we've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people, so we're getting a lot of different feedback. And I know Jason got some of the same feedback. That's why we kind of had some of the same questions. And we had a few businesses that were wanting it to be a lot more further, and then measuring it, and I had to think about it. And so I want to just clarify that football field from the front door to where the next is seems to be pretty much a lot of space. And another question I had is, and of course it can change if it comes back to and it doesn't work, as we're filling in that spot, we'll see if that's gonna, and then I do like that it actually says in here that they have to get permission if they get any closer. So that's a nice little catch right there. Commissary. So how does one get licensed to do that? Or it says here that somebody who's licensed, and so, like, let's say somebody has a food truck and they have a business here, they cannot be their own commissary, right? Is there a reason for that, or like, is there a definition, and how does one get to do that, and can we regulate that?
Well, that just got a little bit out of my depth of knowledge, because I'm not a subject matter expert on food. I don't necessarily claim to be. The commissary is the way that I understand it. It's like where the making of food is occurring. And I think the majority of time on a food truck, they're taking things that are already have been prepared or this, that, and kind of assembling it. So I'm putting it together. Some may be doing some cooking and putting some ingredients, but for the most part, it's not where you would be at a restaurant and everything's taking place. It's my understanding, and I hope I don't get this wrong, that a restaurant and a commissary can they can be the same thing, where both things are occurring, but that's not how the food preparation occurs on the mobile food unit,
Okay.
because it's brought onto the truck.
So it can be the same, somebody who owns a business here can have a food truck, and that could be its commissary. Sorry, I can't read that correctly. Because it says licensed, and I think that sticks out to a few people, that you have to be licensed. So is that license a real requirement, or
I
is it
think that
just-
I think the license actually comes through the Texas Department of Health,
Okay,
not through the city.
trash, okay.
Right.
So they would have to go and get that license from the state. That doesn't have anything to do with us. If they want to be a commissary, they
That's
just have to
correct.
get that license from the state.
The same thing with the Texas Food Handlers license. They have to go through that process in order to get that. It's relatively simple, but I think a commissary is the same thing. They have to get licensed through the
Okay.
state for that.
So it's not any extra regulation, it's a necessary regulation.
If they
that
want to
comes
be a
from-
commissary,
Correct.
yes,
Okay.
there is extra, but if they don't want to be a commissary, then obviously they'll have to go somewhere for
Someplace
that.
else, okay. And that's for clarity. I'm glad this came up and from the last time, because that was something that somebody brought up to me. And there was one other question, I don't think okay, yes. Explain to me what we talked about concerning,
Are we able to talk about the temporary food permits? Is that something that's in here too? I know this is about MFUs.
isn't it in here?
The temporary food establishment?
See, I thought that was in here also. Did I read it in the wrong?
There's a
spot?
definition of it
Okay.
in here. Is there something specific about
Not just the
that?
definition, but the process on applying for it and keeping it long enough so that you don't have to reapply over and over, depending on if it's one event or not. Can you explain how that was?
Yeah, Jessica probably already knows about this. We were going back and forth on a particular event that I was trying to have, and one of the things that we were trying to tie up the loose ends in the language was to not have to make someone come back for multiple permits. So we had, from my understanding, which ended up being different, but the interpretations were different, was a 10 consecutive days. So that's the way that the temporary health permit is. It says temporary health permit is required for food service of a temporary nature up to 10 consecutive days, meaning not that your event would have to run consecutively. It means that the permit was good for 10 days. And that was just not how it was interpreted. So either way that it's interpreted, because that's not how I saw it, that's a different way than what they saw. I think that might just be good for us to try and tie up that language so that people like me, who thought I had a good handle on it, are not confused. So essentially, what was going on, and I'll tell you the whole story. We were trying to have something on a Thursday and a Sunday. It's within the 10 business days. I thought I could only get one permit and it would cover two, and I was told I needed to get two separate permits. Now, we did figure out that this was not the permit that you guys were talking about. It was just the overall special event permit that I personally needed to get, so my problem is solved. However, this one just still felt not clear.
Is it for a single event?
For a single event, yes.
But you're
Not
having it
not consecutively.
you're having a single event on separated days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like she was saying, Thursday to Sunday. So I would read it that if you got it on, let's say, a Wednesday, it's good for 10 days, period. Not it ends on Thursday and you have to get another one for Sunday. So is that up for interpretation, or is that how this reads?
We had an interpretation from staff with reading this. It's 10 consecutive days, but when you had two, since it wasn't on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, however, those days consecutive together, we determined that it was two permits because there's two inspections that need to take place, right? So and I don't know all the details of the setup and takedown of what was happening, but the thought is okay, if I've got an event going on Thursday for food, I'm going to take that and I'm going to break it down and I'm going to have to set it up back again on Sunday. So if I'm setting it back up again, well, that's going to trigger an inspection on the food safety that we kind of did everything right. Maybe it's a different vendor, I don't know. Or if it was the same vendor, just making sure that we have everything kind of, put together instead of continuously every day, right?
I got it.
Okay.
So what I had read was temporary food establishment health permits shall extend from the first date of service until 10 days after the first date of service. That's what I had read, and it felt like it actually backed up what you guys were saying about the 10 days, but not the consecutive part. Because even to me, if you're having a music festival, I mean, day one and day two are completely different. The vibe, the people that you're bringing there, it's completely different. That's not, what we were trying to do was copy and paste 2 days, and we just happened to have 2 days in between it. So I just thought that if I was confused, someone else would be confused, because a lot of the reason behind us trying to tie up these loose ends was specifically for things that were happening like that, where it was not, someone was having to seek a permit over and over and over again.
And I'd like to add to that. I can appreciate that. So is there somewhere that in that language you can clarify to let, just another definition, I hate asking you all to ask more and more definitions, but just saying that consecutive versus multiple days, so that somebody at least knows to come in and get 2 permits if that's the case? Because I agree with you, it would trigger another one, because vendors come in and out all the time, and I get that for safety. But if somebody who is qualified and does this stuff all the time would be confused, that would frustrate somebody else. So just saying, reminder or asterisk, is this 10 days of an event, or is this 4 days and 4 events and 5 days or something?
So do you want to see this with this ordinance amendment? Because I can't give you any language on the fly. I mean, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not that bright. I'm just not.
I understand, I would just
Yeah.
say for the future, tying that up, because none of that is for today, but
Okay.
for future, when it, like you said, this is always moving and breathing, and we don't know until we see it and actually use it. And for the sake of time and not having to bring it back every 3 months, I hope we don't. But one of those things that would just clarify.
We can definitely do that, tighten it up with some clarification. Do y'all want to do it this go around and table it and we bring you back something and it's all captured here? Or do you want to wait at a later time when we do that? I'm open to any suggestions y'all have for it. And this wasn't originally captured in here because we're still working through a lot of this stuff, like the public is, when the questions come up, and we have to take a moment, read, and, okay, what is this saying here? So we do give, it was unfortunate that your situation was the first time it came up for us. I
I actually
apologize.
thought it was okay, because either way that it goes, I think it's good that I was able to go through it, find something like that, and that's kind of a gray area where someone can feel like it's discretionary or whatever, and so I think it's good for us to just find those little things and make them right.
So I do want to follow Nicole in recommending that if you can throw that language in there to make those 2 scenarios clear, I'm ready to move on, but that would just be me if everybody feels the same way.
What are you saying? That you're ready to?
I'm ready to move on. I would like to ask if it's okay with council that we tie up this particular loose end that could be confusing and throw it in there how she sees fit. And I'm happy to give it to Jessica because she will find that language.
So you
And
want
then
to
we'll move on.
table it for
No,
today?
I don't. I
All right,
just want to
that was
add
my
that
question.
caveat. I feel like I'm clear. Thank you for the commissary. I think a football field from the front door to the next place with having written notice from anybody else that might say you're too close to my place is good. And I see that the other definitions with the restaurant, which is another thing, and all my other things in here, I believe were addressed, because you guys captured it already. Thank you. With Jason being gone, so.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Is it going to be contingent on the additions?
No,
I'm sorry?
that is going forward.
That's going forward with this, do I need to say it out loud?
So you're adding that as a.
Yes,
Then
please.
we need to table it, correct? We need to table it until she comes up with that language. You're not clear.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to be clear, forgive me. So I feel like all our questions were answered and all the things that came up, we've clarified. And Nicole found this one little thing to tie up, which means just clarify what a 10-day permit would be versus 10 days consecutive if you had multiple events. And she said she can't come up with the language now, so she needs a minute.
So we need to table it.
But can we just hand it to her to make that
No.
language, or we don't want to do that?
If you table it.
Right now. There's no
We can't
way-
give direction for her to come up with it? Okay.
This is the last second, this is the
Okay.
final reading of it.
Oh, shit. Okay. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think if it needs the revision, which, I mean, I think it does, then just table it, make the revision, and then, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table?
Jerome has a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How do we do that? You want to,
Motion to table it? I'd like to make a motion to table it, what we're talking about right now.
I'll second that, thank you.
okay. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Consideration and possible action to approve master plan for Avellino? Avellino? I'm sorry. Being a subdivision of 49.58 acres out of the HT and BRR Company Survey, Section 71A-291, Brazoria County, Texas, and also being a partial replat of the Immigration Land Company subdivision as recorded in Volume 2, page 81 through 82, BCPR. Motion to approve by PD&Z failed with a vote 0-7.
Oh, good evening again. This is a master plan for Avellino. Avellino is a new development that's located on the south side of Rodeo Palms Parkway. It is next door to Foxtail Palms, and I think you guys have already approved one of these prior. It's about 50 acres development with 140 residential lots. 5 reserves with acreage that has landscaping, open space, and recreation. At this time, staff is not recommending approval of this master plan. The reason being is that it doesn't address deficiencies that pertain to Chapter 62 of the subdivision ordinance, the design criteria manual, and associated development agreement. And that reason being to provide a signed copy of an agreement or related document substantiating note number 15 on the plan, which states that the development will be served by MUD number 42.
All right, any discussion? What?
We don't know where they're getting their utilities. They haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails 0-6. Consideration and possible action to direct staff to provide applicants written statements of the conditions of any conditional approvals and reasons for disapproval of any plans or plats that were not approved per Texas Local Government Code 212.0091.
Generally, the PD&Z has this when PD&Z, or in this case, the city council, has a conditional approval or a denial. You're directing the staff to provide those written comments as required by state law.
All right, any discussion? Have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Consideration and possible action to approve the Ninth Amendment to Development Agreement between the City of Manvel, MC 288 LLC, Pomona Investment LLC, Brazoria County Municipal Utility District 39, and Brazoria County Municipal Utility District 40.
There are actually a couple of items. One is dealing with the height of the multifamily structure, going up a small number of feet. It also increases the height inside of the structure itself. The minimum ceiling height is 9 feet. And then there's three sections of gated, 3 gated sections. The developer is asking that the city allow sidewalks to be placed on only one side because there's a walk-through gate on one side of the fence, and not to require, obviously, a sidewalk on the other one that'll go straight up to a fence. And then there's some sidewalks on Kirby Drive that are 8 feet that would be built with that section of Kirby Drive. So it's height on the multifamily and some sidewalks on gated sections. So those are really the changes in this Ninth Amendment. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer it. Russ is here if you have any questions about the multifamily that they're proposing. If not, the staff is recommending approval.
All right, any discussion? These are some pretty pictures. It looks really nice, yeah. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
In a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? And the motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Russ, for the pretty pictures. Consideration and possible action to approve Resolution 2023-R-07, a resolution of the City of Manvel, Texas, finding that CenterPoint Energy Houston Electric LLC's application for approval to amend its distribution cost recovery factor pursuant to 16 Texas Administrative Code 25.243 to increase distribution rates within the city should be denied, finding that city's reasonable rate case expenses shall be reimbursed by the company, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed is open to the public as required by law, requiring notice of this resolution to the company and legal counsel.
CenterPoint Energy is asking for, it's called a distribution cost recovery factor. It's an increase in the costs associated with it of about $162 million. In the past, what the city has done on advice of the Gulf Coast Coalition of Cities is to deny that request since the city is has original jurisdiction over that. If with that denial, it actually kicks it to the PUC, and then GCC as well as the other cities can go and talk to PUC, look over those costs associated with it. So we would recommend that you just approve the resolution that denies that and it kicks it back to the PUC.
Approve the resolution that denies. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution that denies?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor? And the motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Consideration and possible action to approve an agreement between the state of Texas and the city of Manvel for the authority to construct or have reconstructed signs along the roadways in relation to the city's designation of a superior water status. Hold that sign up one more time. Let's see it. That's awesome.
Hold on one second.
Those don't just come along very easily, you know, and thank you, Ray. All right. So, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
All those in favor? And the motion carries 6-0. Beautiful sign. Thank you. Oh. Oh. All right. Consideration and possible action to approve Resolution 2023-R-08, a resolution of the City of Manvel, Texas, adopting a revised design criteria manual containing subdivision improvement standards for all development within the city or its extraterritorial jurisdiction pursuant to authority contained in Chapter 62, Subdivision Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manvel, Texas, Chapter 212 of the Texas Local Government Code, and other provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Manvel as amended or to be amended, and containing other matters on the subject. And I apologize, I turned a page and skipped a whole section. So,
We can have Dan talk about that one?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council.
good evening.
So this may sound familiar because we do this at least once a year. So it's that time. We used to try and update the design criteria manual every April. And if you notice on the second page of this, that doesn't always happen. But we're about 6 months into the current design criteria manual, and we've come up with a dozen things or so that we would like to recommend changing. I've got a list of them in your packet. I can just hit them real quickly if you like. Page 4, we're just adding a scale simply to the vicinity map, consistent with all the plats. It just is a lot easier to understand plans and plats when they look similar. As you can imagine, if somebody uses a key map or somebody uses a different type of map for your vicinity map, you can get lost real quickly. So just making those consistent. Including a PDF version of construction plans to the process. In practice, that's what we do anyway, quite frankly, since COVID kind of changed, our whole review process. So we're doing that anyway. We're just adding some verbiage into the design criteria manual to be consistent with our practice. And then number 3 and number 6. So we have specified a certain type of liner for our sanitary sewer manholes. So our sanitary sewers are made of plastic pipe. And the manholes themselves are concrete, which is fantastic. They're very strong. However, you have corrosive stuff, in a sanitary sewer, and where it attacks the most is in your concrete pipes. So we already require a liner. It's basically almost like a plastic liner in there, if you will, that gets sprayed on, more like a bed liner, I guess you could say. And there are certain kinds that are that we've found have been very, very good. We've used Raven Liner for years now. The only problem is there aren't very many applicators. There aren't very many people that can do that. And with so much construction going on, we've gotten the request several times. And so we've tried and have had success. I think actually Gilbert had success, and so did Ray, with this particular brand of Super Coat is what they're called. I don't know if you notice the spelling, it's kind of clever there. But anyway, Super Coat. So we're recommending, hey, we've seen them in action enough. They have good quality control, so we're okay with letting them be an approved alternative. And then number 6, kind of the same, similar situation with our fire hydrants. Right now, we require only one brand, allow only one brand. We say or approved equal, well, rather than, each time the engineer have to go through the process of, hey, is it okay if we use this one? Let's just go ahead and accept this other one as East Jordan Ironworks, right? Which is fairly common. You see those, they're pretty accessible. So we did specify a certain one so that they still have the quick connects on there. Those are called stores connections. So I don't know if you've seen those on the outside. We adopted those about 10 years ago or something like that, Larry. So anyway, we're just hard coding those two. Number 4, number 5, those are my associate engineer, I guess he is. He came across that in our ordinance, we actually require 20 feet wide easements for all the water lines. And we had something in the design criteria that allowed 20 feet in certain situations and 10 feet in others. Well, right now, the most prudent thing to do is go ahead and get the design criteria manual up to speed with the ordinance. So now they'll both be 20. My hunch is that we'll probably hear from engineers or developers in the very near term, and oh my God, that's not going to work. So if that does happen, if it's a little tricky, then we'll need to update the ordinance and the design criteria manual. But the main thing is, that we're consistent with our ordinance.
So was that Joe's that?
Percy. I don't know if you know Percy or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's fantastic plan reviewer. He really
Well, make sure he hears from us. Congratulations. That was a good eye.
is. He does. He does have a good eye. Let's see, number 7. Sorry, I skipped around and now I lost myself. Number 7, just clarifying some sidewalk requirements. Same thing, there was a spot in the ordinance, there was a spot in the design criteria manual, and a spot in our master thoroughfare plan, and they weren't all the same. So we're trying to thread the needle of consistency with some verbiage there. Number 8, site plan submittal requirements, that is Joe's. He identified some things that would really help on the planning side. Number 9, that's probably the most substantive one. Right now, we only allow for concrete driveways, period. All new driveways are concrete. I don't know if y'all get as many calls as we do. I suspect you probably do. So this is a thought that we came up with on page 60 in the design criteria manual that would add the allowance for asphalt residential driveways on asphalt streets. So if the street's asphalt, the driveway could be asphalt. It'd be a huge cost savings, obviously, if you have a long driveway and it's going back to the barn and whatnot. This still does not open the can for gravel and crushed gravel and all those other things. We're still saying it's impervious, so the fire truck can get in there and do what they need to do. But we thought that this was a good, it's a tough sell if the street going to your house is asphalt, but then you have to do concrete on the driveway. Anyway, so that's what we came up with. Similarly, number 10 there clarified that. I'm sorry, this is not similar. Number 10, clarified a one-way aisle width. So we have, gosh, Joe, we've done 2 or 3 design criteria modifications for the school district, for HEB, and one of the drive-throughs. We had hard-coded that one-way aisles would have to be as wide as two-way aisles, just in case, people don't honor the one-way. Practically speaking, that's a little tough because some of these sites are just small and you just can't do it. So they need a one-way aisle. So we've backed off on 2 iterations, on a 45-degree parking space and a 60-degree space. And then let's see, number 11, this is the other one. So we clarified some provisions for asphalt parking lots specifically. If you think about your Brisas and your what did I just lose? The Burger Barn, there it is. City of Manvel, those 3 come to mind. They've had asphalt parking lots for many years. They need to expand or touch it up, make it better to sort of gotcha and make them convert it to concrete. That's a tough ask, right? So in practice, what happens is they do it over the weekend when nobody's around. And that's not really what we want to do. We still want to make sure that they're doing it the right way, but so an option would be that we allow not necessarily new asphalt parking lots, but if it's an existing asphalt parking lot, they need to make some repairs, they need to make some, maybe even an expansion, that we just allow that to stay as asphalt. And then the last one, believe it or not, we still had some spots in here that talked about Public Works Department. It's been community services for several years now, so anyway, another good catch by Percy on seeing some typos in there. But it's probably, as usual, more detail than you want to know, but I want you to feel like you understand what we're doing and where we're coming from on those. So.
No, that's great. To hear about it, who catches it. Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. All right, mayor and council comments. Anybody, anything? Well, I do. This is the week of April 9th through the 15th is Dispatchers Week. You want to address that, or I can, let me finish reading what I have here prepared by our city secretary for me to read, so I would be remiss if I didn't. Okay, thank you, dispatchers, the unseen heroes of public safety. The gold line lies between the blue and the red. They are always heard but rarely seen. They are the heroes behind the scenes, the calm voice in the dark. Yes, sir.
Mayor and council, good evening. The 9th through the 15th was National Telecommunications Day, and we recognize our telecommunication officers throughout the state and the nation. This year, I dropped the ball on it, and I apologize to them about it. We did get them something from the police department, but my past 2 weeks have been kind of hectic with me being out for a week and then some crazy things happening last week, and I just forgot to get it to Tammy for the agenda. So I wanted to recognize all our dispatchers publicly and let them know that we do appreciate everything they do, and they are a hard-working bunch of men and ladies. I was going to say ladies, but I forgot I do have one young man in there now that do a remarkable job to keep our guys and gals going to where they need to go for the help that they need to provide.
Thank you. We share your sentiment. Okay, anybody else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Come on.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Oh, boy.
And opposed, no.